All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Sara Stepa, founder of Circles of Impact, and I'm here today with Mina Demian, founder and creator of Grants-Ease.ai. And we are going to debunk and talk a little bit about some of the biggest lies or myths about AI in grant writing today. So, we have been working in this space, both of us, over a decade on each side. Mina's really dove into the technology and AI component of grants over the past few years, and I have just been immersed year over year over year in strategy and understanding how funders think. And we are going to bring both of our brains together and share some really unique ideas and perspectives that will hopefully help you leverage the tools that are out there and win more funding. At the end of the day, we all want more funds. We want you to do the great work that you're doing in the world and to do it easier at the end of the day. So, Mina, we're going to start with you. And one of the myths that comes up quite often is that, AI understands your context. AI understands the organization, they understand everything. What's really happening when you're using AI?
Thanks so much, Sarah, for that question. And I am really excited to kind of dig into this because I found it so interesting the fact that a lot of nonprofit folks are opening ChatGPT and pressing new chat and then asking for a grant to be written. What's really fascinating is that these large language models are basically mathematical equations that are looking for the best next word in a sentence. And so they don't understand your context. They don't understand what your organization does. And we cannot trust large language models to write a grant specifically from an open context chat. And so I can't emphasize this enough. We need to train the models to understand both intentionality and context. And the only way to do that is to kind of create projects and to ensure that there is an opportunity for the large language model to understand everything about you as an organization and everything about the funder. And we do that through a lot of large language model training. So the analogy that I always like to stick with for people to fully grasp it is, imagine you're working with a consultant that has amnesia. And you really want this consultant, who's an absolute expert grant writer, to write you a grant, but they keep forgetting what you do and how you do it. They might understand the guidance and the eligibility, and you might ask it to be an expert level grant writer. But if it doesn't understand your context and if you haven't trained it enough, then it will absolutely fail. So that's the biggest myth, is that the AI understands your context. It does come up with really pretty language, really great sentences, but if it doesn't understand it's your language and who you are, then of course it's going to fail. So that's kind of the biggest myth that I've observed. And, question to you, Sarah, is this, is that can't the AI just write this thing for me? It's such a pain and it takes me so much time. And, even if it does come up with really pretty sentences, is that good enough?
Short answer, no. Long answer. I think you really nailed it on the head when you first started talking about language models. Mina, I think a lot of people either they don't know or we forget that AI is just reading patterns. It's language modeling. It's not actual critical thinking. It's not actually a human brain making decisions. It's following patterns, choosing the next best word. And when it starts to write pretty grants or it puts together these streaming sentences that sound really good, what is often happening is it's just choosing the next best word. And it's the same for multiple organizations. And so it might sound good. I do this quite often. I write grants on a regular basis. Many of my clients, I'm helping them. And we write something and I read it. I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty good. But then I pause now. I've really learned to pause and step back and say, what is that sentence actually saying? Does it actually provide specifics? Is it actually explaining something real, or is it just pretty jargon wrapped up in a well structured sentence? Because at the end of the day, AI is great at writing well structured, grammatically correct sentences with non-profit jargon. that says nothing. And so, without the context of the work that you do, your organization, that's the context that is going to create a winning grant. And if you're not adding that, positioning that, reviewing what AI is giving you through that lens, you're getting generic outputs. And funders, I won't say that they can tell, but they read it and they're just the essence, the feel of your organization and your work is being lost. And so we have to be really careful when we use AI not to lose, again, the specifics of the work. And the only way it can capture the specifics and the feel and the impact in the community that you're building and the impact you're having is when you share that with them, when you screen it for it, when you ask it, get more specific, stop repeating the same thing. It's notorious for repetition as well. And a lot of times we don't need to say the same thing over and over and over again. So there's a little bit more work, I find, using AI, but you can get a much more succinct and specific grant. It just takes a little bit more prompting, a little bit more work. So never accept the full or the never accept the full, not the full, my goodness, never accept the first
Yes.
iteration
Yeah.
of what AI gives you. That's just your first draft. That 100% is just the first draft. Then we get to keep working on it, edit, get more specific. And I'll always, always, always tell organizations remember the work that you're doing. Go back to why it's important. Think about your communities. And all of this should be happening before we're actually writing a grant, before we're actually using AI. Have you found some of those patterns as well, Mina, when you've been using AI or working with individuals?
You hit the nail on the head in terms of getting into the specifics. The AI, without any context, will not understand what the specifics are, what you do, how you do it, what community you serve. And so, of course, it's heading at 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction. And here's the really interesting and dangerous part about it is that it's sycophantic, which means that it's really pumping your ego, saying, oh no, this is the right direction. Don't worry about it. We're heading in the right direction. This is a beautiful proposal. We're writing it. It's just perfect sentences every single time. But when you look at the sentence, as you kind of alluded to, you're kind of stopping and reflecting. And you're like, wait, that's a broken logic model. That's not what we do. That's the scary part when you start to realize your first draft is absolutely horrendous if you haven't prompted it correctly in the first place, created the right project around it, and given it the right both intentionality and context. So, no, I think you've hit the nail on the head on that one.
And that's why strategy is so important, really. When we get to use these tools to help us strengthen our strategy, strengthen our positioning, it helps us think better and ask questions that we might not be able to do on our own. But we still need to start with what is the work that we're doing? What is the project we're really trying to build? And really work with your team, work with your community, work with the gaps and challenges, and be able to actually talk about solutions, not just say, hey, AI, create a project for us that might get funded. Because at the end of the day, sure, you might get funding, but it's not actually aligned with the work that you're trying to do. It might not even be well positioned for what your organization does. It might not even be, I was going to say implementable. I don't know if that's a word. If you might not be able to implement it, you might not have the capacity. Because again, AI creates some really great ideas. Even Mina and I brainstorming for today's conversation. It can give you tens of ideas to talk about. But then for us, we get to decide what do we really want to talk about? What do we really think is important? What do we hear from people that we're working with and interacting with where they see the challenges? Where are our clients going off the beaten path? What are they getting caught up with? That's what we want to talk about. Just because AI suggested something doesn't mean it's the best option to move forward with. Like Mina said, you don't want to go down the wrong path and then suddenly you're way off track. And then it takes a little bit of time to come back to what you're really trying to do in terms of the work. So it's a great tool. We want to be using these tools, but be careful with how we're using them.
I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of it needs strategy. So, with that 100 miles an hour analogy, heading in the
Yeah.
wrong direction. The strategy is no, I want to get here, but the AI is driving you here. And so what we're trying to do is provide the opportunity to become strategists and then also orchestrate the AI so that there's building an infrastructure that is required. So it is that analogy of you're building the scaffolding, and the scaffolding actually helps you get to the direction that you want to go.
Would you say that prompts are part of that scaffolding?
Yes, I love that. So we're talking about myths right now. And so let's talk about the prompt myth. Prompts are extremely important, and the more sophisticated a prompt is, the more likely that you're going to get the outcome that you need. However, there's big caveats to that. And the big warnings is this is that if you're starting and asking this AI tool to be an expert grant writer with 20 years of experience and the goal is to win this grant, it's still starting from zero. Like you still need to feed it your information, what you do, how you do, what your language is. There's all sorts of engineering that goes behind a prompt. And so you can't solely rely on that one particular prompt. Nonprofits, again, going back to that analogy of you're driving in a car, it's going 100 miles an hour, probably faster with AI. And this is a multiplier, but it can't be a multiplier from zero. It has to be a multiplier from all the things that you've worked on so that the prompt actually does work and becomes that scaffolding that actually builds on each other. And so now you can reuse that prompt again if you're going to be applying for a different grant or if you're going to be looking for a project logic model, but it definitely needs a lot of engineering that goes behind that. And I'm not talking about engineering like I don't have any coding background. I want to be clear. I'm the AI guy, but I certainly don't have any kind of technical expertise in terms of coding or anything like that. But I have throughout my career worked on my product and brought it to market based on the understanding of how AI actually works. So with that being said, question to you, Sarah, is this: let's say if we get it all right, we get the prompt right, we get the context right, we get the initiation of what exactly our strategy is. Does that mean that AI will help us win a whole bunch of grants and we're just going to be swimming in money like Scrooge McDuck?
Well, if that was the case, no one would be coming to us. Everyone would have all the funds they need to do all the great work that they're doing. Uh, so, what I will say is that Mina and I ran our first grant training accelerator in January. And this was the first time that I saw some of the prompts that Mina has put together that we were able to share with the participants who joined the accelerator. And I've consistently used, I think there's two or three that are my favorite. And they're really great as screening tools. I don't actually use many prompts for the writing component, but to say, like, tell me about this funder. What do they value? What language do they use? How much funding is available? Because if you've ever reviewed a government grant and there are 17 links and there are guideline pages and application guidelines, you could spend, I think I've spent up to 8 hours reviewing some of these pages sometimes because they're so detailed. AI can cut those 8 hours with a simple, well engineered prompt into a 2-page document that gives you the high level. You're still going to want to go into more of the detail before you start writing or potentially pitching a client, but a high level summary gives you, okay, it's systemic change, it's this much money, it's this is the deadline, this is some of the language. And then you're better able to understand that funder quickly, gives you context for does it align with the work that you do. So technology and prompting, it can actually amplify the expertise and the alignment that you're looking for. When you use prompts in this way, this is just this one simple example, this helps you find the right grants. This is where, Mina's asking, okay, we do all the things right, we prompt it, or we just could be swimming in money. No, because a lot of clients, a lot of nonprofits, I see what they do is they just think, well, if we apply for more grants, we're going to get more funding. But the problem is they're not choosing the right funders. So even if you're using AI and you've cut your writing time down from 20 hours to 5, you've still wasted 5 hours because you're applying to the wrong funder. And the only way to know if you're applying to the wrong funder is to understand your programs, understand strategy, understand how to align the work that you do with the funder in question. And so this takes that human intelligence aspect, and you can leverage AI to help you get the information you need to make a strategic decision. And so better alignment over time or better choice or the improved choice of grants will increase your success rate. But what happens is you actually start to apply to fewer grants. And some people get really uncomfortable by that because their performance reviews are based on how many grants did they say they were going to apply for at the beginning of the year. Oh, we said we're going to apply for 30 grants. Then the end of the year comes, you only applied for 10. And your boss manager is like, why'd you only apply for 10? Mina and I, we really want you to be able to confidently say, I said no to 20 other opportunities because they weren't right for us. They weren't aligned with the work that we did. Or it could be as simple as we weren't yet ready to apply. And so more grants does not equal more funding. Volume is not a strategy. Alignment with the right funders is what is going to increase your success rate. That is what we really want you to be dialing in on because quality is going to beat quantity every single time.
And with the time saved, Sarah, would you say that the best thing is to actually create relationships with these particular funders, to get to know them, understand them, rather than, spam a whole bunch of foundations? Like, how would we take all the time saved and use it effectively?
Always, relationships are going to be valuable. And so I say this with a bit of a caveat. If there is ever an opportunity to have a conversation with a funder, take it
Thank you.
every single time because they're going to give you valuable insight in how to position your grant, in what they're looking for. It's and they get to know you as an organization. You get to talk about your work because what's really interesting is that people talk about their work differently than the way they write about their work. And so when you can talk and speak and feel and share from a aligned and authentic voice with a funder about what you're trying to do, they understand it differently and they can help guide you to say, yes, you're ready for this fund. No, we don't think it's a good fit. Love the work that you're doing. Maybe they know another foundation. Maybe they have a different grant that's more aligned. That conversation can, again, save you so much time and it builds a relationship. That's just one touch point, and then you get to do it again and again and again. Now, the caveat I have is that with AI, this is a bit of a downside, is that people are, like Mia said, they're just pumping out applications to every foundation under the sun. Foundations, funders, they're going to get overwhelmed with applications, meaning they don't have the capacity, staffing, portals, or resources to actually meet with all of you. So that option might start to become far and few between. It might be more difficult to start or find opportunities to have conversations simply based on volume. So we're actually doing everybody a disservice if we're all applying to everything under the sun without being more strategic, without having that critical thinking to say, is this the right grant for us? We don't want to just apply to everything just because. Does it actually align with the work that you do? And does it actually align with what the funder is trying to do? So this is where prompting can help. This is where context really helps. Like for you, Mina, like how do you answer some of these questions with the tools and bots and softwares and stuff that you've been playing with over the last bit?
Yeah, to your point, right? It's the opportunities there to save time. And how do you use it most effectively? It's to create relationships, have one-on-one time. Uh, One of the things that I think we all recognize right now in the age of AI, sorry for the cheesy analogy here, but this notion that one-on-one conversations where there's trust built is far more of a currency now than ever before. The generic spam that goes out where it's just you can tell it's AI generated and it's written the same way over and over again. That's an immediate, like, okay, these people didn't actually take this seriously. They didn't read through the criteria and eligibility. And so we really want to avoid that. And interestingly enough, to your question, Sarah, is that we've observed also from the funder's perspective, yes, they've already identified that they're getting way more funding requests. And with that, that's a good thing. Everyone now has the capacity to actually apply for funding. I believe that, that's a good thing. Everyone can now apply. But it's the people who actually stand out, the people who use their own language, the authenticity, and that alignment of this is what we do, this is what you fund, and there's a perfect mix here. These are the people who are actually going to get ahead. So you definitely, if you feel like there's a perfect alignment with a particular funder, don't waste that time putting in a generic application. Show them your colors, your language, how you actually create that social return on investment if you're a nonprofit or a charitable organization. And if you can demonstrate those things, then you stand out. And that's how I love to use AI, is that everything that comes along with the building of that infrastructure, but also the follow throughs. Can we schedule follow ups? Can we have a create a an easier way to maintain relationships, CRM, where it's a client management relationship tool, and AI is going to help you write those emails, make sure that there's follow-ups, and really warm that relationships over and over again. That's how I love to use the AI tools. It's stuff that the principles and fundamentals of relationship building is there, and AI is just a tool to help you get there a little bit quicker, and help with those foundational aspects of things. But it never replaces a human being and human interactions.
I think you're right. The currency of human interaction is just so much stronger these days. Like when we started first talking about AI and grant writing year, half, 2 years ago, like this was just sort of entering, and like the lightning speed in which everything has evolved and grown and transformed. What we're talking about now is way different than what we were talking about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And more people are just loving or craving, I should say, connection and conversation and real information and authenticity. And so AI can make things sound generic. AI can really start to take away the depth of your work or the uniqueness of your work. And so it's a great tool when we're using it to do some of the back end stuff that we don't need humans to do, but conversations, interactions, getting in that room is really, really important.
From your perspective, do you find, like, have you ever written a grant and then followed that context and then just generically put together that grant application? It's a good one, and then you just kind of send it out over and over again, rewording from that one particular funder, and then you just interject the other funder, and then you just send it out. From your perspective, how are you using AI to help you kind of alleviate some of those pressures to ensure that there is quality going out every single time?
I always go back to understanding both the funder, what they care about, what their values are, and what they're prioritizing. And the same thing on the organizational side. And so oftentimes I'll remind people of the funder perspective, the funder psychology. So my background is as a funder, I was reviewing a number of applications. I was at the decision-making table. And so I have a different understanding of how funders are reviewing your applications. But different types of funders require different types of information. They're also solving different types of problems. They have different values. And so that prompt that I mentioned earlier about understanding a funder, getting a quick summary, some keywords, some alignment, the priorities, that gives me so much insight into how I should position an application.
Mm.
And so the questions I'm asking my client are different. How I write the application is different. I'll give a really brief example where I supported a client recently in applying for a volunteer charity. And so the people at the decision making table are from corporate jobs, community members. They're not in the nonprofit sector. They are not a public granting foundation who understands the work that you do. They're just volunteers. And so yes, they want to have an impact. Yes, how they grant funds is there's a rigorous process, there's evaluation pieces, but the way I positioned the work was in a way that they would understand it. in more layman's terms, in more community oriented terms. The output, the outcomes, the impact that this grant was going to have was not about social services, was not about pathway management. It wasn't about helping reduce barriers, even. All of that was true, but that's not language that the everyday person uses. So I needed to frame the application in a way that they could easily understand. Something is a similar project or proposal that is going to a government funder, I would not use layman's terms, regular day-to-day terminology. I would want very specific metrics, very specific social service jargon, very specific barrier reduction activities, because that's the language that likely that funder is using. So you can apply for the same projects to multiple funders, but it is never, never going to be a rinse and repeat. If you rinse and repeat, if you get funded, congratulations. But I would bet money that you're not going to have a high success rate because every funder requires a different alignment and different positioning, even if it's the same projects. Winning proposals are definitely not copied and pasted. They are going to be repositioned every single time. And Mina, I feel like
Well,
we lost your face here. Your video is not here anymore.
what? That's weird.
There you go. Now you're back.
Shut off automatically. That's
Technology.
brilliant. That's amazing. Yeah. And, the way that I kind of like describe it is that there's no hacks, there's no secrets to the AI tools. What the most important aspect is the strategy so that you're repositioning for a particular funder and there's alignment of there's language, criteria, eligibility every single time so that there's no generic like no this is what we do. If you want to fund us, great. If you don't, great. Like that's kind of the whole notion of having the AI layer on top of that is that the strategy leads it and the AI is built so that it can support you so that you're not rewriting that grant. And that's something I think you and I probably did a million times where we had to rewrite the exact same grant, hundreds of different times, repositioning and so on and so forth. I think the AI tools helps with that component so that it's not so administrative. And that's the key components that we can give to the machines. But we're still the strategists. We're still orchestrating exactly how to align those tools. So, no, that's really well put.
Yeah. And I think that's how you align strategy with these tools. But if you don't understand that different funders want different things, that you have to align with different language, you don't understand that the same project could be applied to different funders, or there's a lack of understanding that the strategic positioning needs to change. The project itself can be the same. How you position and present it to a funder is different. And that is what AI can help you do. But you need to understand that that's what you need to ask it to do. That's what you prompted to do. Say, this is the project, this is the funder we're looking at. How do we reposition this idea? If we reposition it, does it align with the funder? And always, always, always going back to the work that you do. Is this still aligned with the work that we're trying to do? Does this still align with our mission? Is this still in integrity with what we say we do in and for community? Because again, we don't want to go too far off the beaten path just because it sounds good. Make sure that you can deliver on what you're putting in these applications. Because every grantor, if you win that fund, they're going to make you report back.
Ah,
So good, so good. Any final thoughts, Mina, around just like what you've been seeing with AI, some myths you've been seeing before we kind of wrap up our conversation today?
glad you asked me that. I had the really great privilege of being in a room with around 40 nonprofits recently, and we were doing some AI tool training and some hands on building. And what was really fascinating was that some of the key tools that are really appreciated in the AI industry right now, things that are for free and readily available, that can be trained on public data, nothing private, and of course, with strict governance around how you share that data to AI tools. a lot of the nonprofits in that room, I was surprised to see weren't familiar with some of these more advanced tools. And so that's why I'm really excited to kind of partner with you and help with the nonprofit sector to kind of give them some alignment of, hey, what is the latest AI tool? How do you use which tool when, and to ensure that it's all strategic. And I think that you've got a brilliant mind in terms of the strategy itself. And I'm just here to kind of have that overarching AI layer so that we just help alleviate some of the administrative stuff that is will help with the strategy.
100%. And save time. Like at the end of the day, we are all still extremely busy people and we
Mm-hmm.
want to do a lot of things. Nonprofit, we're notorious for wearing multiple hats, always needing more funds. And if we can begin to understand how to say no to certain grants, we can leverage AI tools, we're going to be able to utilize our time more effectively. And hopefully, which you also should do, is rest. Just because we have more time doesn't mean we need to pump out and make every single second productive. So that's a whole other conversation, but I just wanted to throw that in there. But really, at the end of the day, we want to be giving tools, AI tools, understanding of what's out there because they're changing so rapidly. Every time I have a conversation with Mina, he tells me about another software, another thing that he's found. And I'm like, cool, you carry on and I'm still over here using ChatGPT. So this is why we partnered because our brains work differently. And this is why we've teamed up. We're bringing our grant training accelerator forward again this October. So if you're struggling with practical applications of AI, if you're wondering how to strategically position your ideas, if you're just looking, how do I bridge this human intelligence with all the stuff that's out there? Our accelerator is 6 weeks. We'll drop the link in the bio if you get some more details. And our early bird pricing is going to be on until the end of August. So please take advantage of that. And of course, reach out to either Mina or I with any questions you have. We love this sector. We want to help you gain the funds that you need to ensure that your mission can actually do the work that you're here to do in the community. So thanks for being here. Mina, any final comments or words?
No, I love the fact that you kind of mentioned it yourself is that you're already using the tools. We know that. We're just trying to help you layer on that strategy and the AI tools so that everything's kind of aligned. I can't wait to see that rising tide lift all the ships in the nonprofit sector here in Calgary. Such an important sector that I truly believe in. So can't wait to see you in October. Please do reach out anytime. And I'm really excited to work with you again, Sarah.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, folks. See you next time.